Hello there everyone and welcome back to a new Football Manager 2021 team guide. It's TIJ Gaming and today the team guide turns to the Foxes, Leicester City. The team that recorded a famous underdog Premier League win in only their second Premier League season in 2016. Incredible to think that is 4 years ago now. But ever since then, they have been pretty consistent. The season after, they had a little bit of a downturn, finishing 12th. But after that, they have recovered and finished in the top 10 every single season, which has amazingly come now to finishing 5th in the Premier League last year, which actually, although it might not seem like it, was a bit of an underachievement for Leicester in my opinion, because there was a time last year where Leicester were the only side that were really looking at trying to maintain a battle with Liverpool at the top of the table. But at the end of the season, they started to struggle and finish behind the Big Four to finishing 5th in the Premier League. But they still maintain European football and take part in the Europa League this year. And they're going to be an interesting club. So why have you turned on this video, may I ask? Well, in today's video, we're going to be looking at some of the elements of the club. We're going to be looking at club vision, any new players that Leicester have brought in, the dynamics of the team, the tactic I would use, and any youngsters to watch. These team guide videos are for those people who are potentially inexperienced at Football Manager, or people who don't know a lot about Leicester City as a football club. I'm not particularly going to bring anything new to the table. I'm just going to talk about how I would potentially take Leicester on, what I would do in terms of tactics and all of those elements I've discussed earlier. And in these 10 or 15 minutes, I'm just going to try and describe some of the elements that might be important to your tenure at Leicester City. So let's get into it with the first element here with the club vision. This is always very important and a nice new addition that was added to FM. I think it was added to Football Manager last year, and something that really strikes very quickly is the fact that Leicester only have £1 million in terms of their transfer budget. They've only got £70,000 a week to be spending on wages. So if you are going to sign anyone, it's going to have to be on the never. And what I mean by that is paying in instalments. So looking first at the club culture then, and amazingly, well, not necessarily amazingly, but interestingly to say the least, looking at these importance, there's nothing that the club are desperate for you to do here. So you've got a fair amount of freedom to find your own way, which is quite unusual in any Premier League club. Now, the club would like you to play attacking football, entertaining football, but if you want to play Mourinho ball and sit behind the ball and play defensive tactic, then the club aren't going to be that bothered as long as it gets you results. And the club would obviously like you, I think every club would, develop players using the club's youth system. But again, if you buy externally, they're not going to be too fussed. In terms of the 5-year plan, the club would like to expand the stadium, but the board will come to you as and when they want to do that. And a requirement, no surprise, is to work within the wage budget. That's pretty much a standard for every Premier League club. So looking at the objectives for this season, it is a desired objective, so quite an important one. Not as important as the Premier League, but a desired objective, so 75% importance if you're looking at it in terms of percentages, is that the minimum expectation is that the team reach the semi-final of the Europa League. Now, the Europa League, it's been mocked by a few clubs, but it is certainly not an easy one at all. You can see the winners have been Sevilla, Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Manchester United. So to get to the semi-final of the Europa League is going to be tough. But I feel that they've lessened expectations in the Premier League to make up for that. They need you to finish in the top half. And to be quite honest, that's something that you should be able to do. You know, Leicester City, as I've discussed before, for the last 3 years have finished in the top half of the league. And that's something definitely with this squad you should be looking to continue. So top half of the Premier League, if not, you're pretty likely to be out. In terms of the two domestic clubs, the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, they'd like you to reach the quarter-final. But again, if you don't, they're not going to be that bothered. But they'd like you to do very well in the top domestic cup, which is the FA Cup. Reach the quarter-final of the FA Cup and the club will be happy. Going forward, the club very simply just want you to keep qualifying for the Europa League, which means in practice that either you've got to win a cup every season, because if you do win one of these two cups, you get automatic qualification for the Europa League, or by finishing 6th or maybe 7th in the Premier League. If you finish 7th in the Premier League, you don't guarantee a Europa League spot, but depending on what happens in the two domestic cups, you might just steal it. But to guarantee European football, you have to finish 6th in the league. So, who are the new players that have signed for Leicester this year? Well, there are two big signings. Timothy Castagne is coming from Atalanta to play on the right. He can also play on the left of defence, so a nice versatile play there, definitely. But I think he's second choice to Ricardo Pereira, the 26-year-old. But interestingly, at the start of the save, he does have damaged cruciate ligaments, so he's going to be out between 7 weeks and 3 months. So he's going to come in fairly early. You've got James Justin as well on that right-hand side. And I'm ignoring Wilfred Ndidi for the simple reason that really is a midfielder. So I wouldn't look to play him at right back unless you're particularly desperate. The other big signing is Wesley Fofana, definitely one for the future from Saint-Etienne. you could say Leicester have maybe paid over the odds for him. I'm not sure, because he's only valued at 11 million. And if a player's valued less than you've bought him for, you might have paid a bit much for him. But no doubt that Wesley Fofana is a man for the future. He's 19 years of age, currently 7th choice in the defence. But bear in mind, Johnny Evans is 32. He's going to be out the door fairly soon. Wes Morgan, he's 35 or 36. He's ancient. He's going to be out fairly soon. Christian Fuchs is a left back. James Justin is a right back. So realistically, Wesley Fofana is already 3rd choice. But a very good player who could be an absolute star in the future. Definitely a decent rating for the first team at the moment, but one that will definitely improve over time. A few free transfers, a few loans, not really much to discuss, but of course, the likes of Castagna have definitely been bought to try and fill the hole that Ben Chilwell leaves after leaving the club for £50 million. In terms of dynamics, it's no surprise that some of the team leaders are players that have been at the club for a long while. Kasper Schmeichel, Wes Morgan and Jamie Vardy, all members of that 2016 title squad. As well, Michael Brighton and Christian Fuchs were also. Johnny Evans wasn't a member of that squad, but he's an old player. He's 32 years of age. I won't use old, I'll say experienced. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? An experienced player at the age of 32. He's been round the block a lot, but had a really good season for Leicester last year. Played all of the Premier League games, played 38 Premier League games. He's definitely someone who's going to be a regular starter, at least for this year. I don't think there's anything really that's worth noting here in the dynamics. It all looks fairly good. Of course, all of these players, you could argue, are reaching the end of their careers. You've got Vardy and Schmeichel at the age of 33 and Wes Morgan at the age of 36. But I do think that players like James Maddison, Yuri Tillemans, Damari Gray will probably move into those team leader slots at some point. But can you ever see Jamie Vardy retiring? Maybe not. Let's have a look at the tactic that I've recommended to use with Leicester. And it actually recommended Gegenpress, which is the system that Liverpool's Klopp are so famous for using. Klopp's Liverpool, not Liverpool's Klopp. Klopp's Liverpool are so famous for using. And that's something I didn't think would work with Leicester. So I've gone with a fluid counter-attack. Now, starting from the top this time, Jamie Vardy is a player that's just always got to get into the squad. As a pressing forward, someone who puts pressure on the opposition and just tries to generally score himself. And as you can see, the animation here, which is exactly what Vardy does. He beats the defender and gets the goal. On the wings, you've got Harvey Barnes and Damari Gray. You've also got on the bench, you've got the likes of Cengiz Under, who's coming on loan from Roma. To look at your squad and look at the other options, for example, in Damari Gray's position, you'd hit this drop-down button. You can also see the players that can play at right midfield and also their readiness to play in that role. In terms of midfield, you've got Yuri Tillemans and James Maddison. Yuri Tillemans, more of a deep-lying playmaker. Now, the rule generally is to only have one playmaker in your squad, so perhaps you might look to potentially put Yuri Tillemans as a box-to-box midfielder. But James Maddison is more of an attacking midfielder, but I'd definitely keep him as that central midfielder, as that leaves quite a big gap in the midfield, I think. And I wouldn't risk playing like this with 4-2-3-1. I think it's much better to have the security of Ndidi at defensive midfielders, a ball-winning midfielder, just to help the defenders out. And currently we've got Castagna, Evans, Soyuncu and James Justin in the defence. But we've got other players, of course. Christian Fuchs can play at left-back. Ricardo Pereira is injured. That's the only reason he's out of the squad. But generally, Ricardo Pereira will be first choice. And you're probably looking at Christian Fuchs being first choice there at left-back. And obviously, Kasper Schmeichel in the sticks. And Danny Ward being a good backup on the bench as well. But you've got a good bench. You've got Fofana, who we mentioned earlier. Napolis Mendy, he's a 28-year-old. Again, a fringe player, a squad player who can come in off the bench. Dennis Pratt, an attacking midfielder and also a central midfielder, who again could come in as second choice for either Tillemans or Maddison. We talked about Under. And then you've got Iheanacho and Perez, who could potentially come in for Jamie Vardy. Or if you wanted to go for something a little bit attacking, you'd get rid of Ndidi and probably put in Jose Perez there. Looks like a dangerous squad, that does. But probably against the bigger sides, you'd be looking to play that defensive midfielder. But against sides that you would look to dominate against, this might be the tactic you look to play. So, any youngsters to watch for Leicester? This is a cracking screen. They added Sports Interactive added this screen to Football Manager a few years ago, and I really like it. It's called the Development Centre, and basically it's a nice report by your head of youth development, which just shows a nice summary of all of the elements of development for your young squads. So you've got first team candidates here. You can see Luke Thomas is a player that's thought of as a potential first teamer. He's a left back. Currently he's 2-star rating, but could be a real star. And at the age of 19, he could be definitely somebody that comes in. Because if you look, you've got Castagna, you've got Fuchs on that side. Put it this way, Fuchs is a man that's going to be coming to the end of his career soon. Probably you're going to look to release him the end of the season. So it looks like Luke Thomas could be somebody who maybe learns off Christian Fuchs. Maybe even put him as a tutor. put Christian Fuchs as a tutor for Luke Thomas, and then look to bed him into the first team for the next few years. In terms of an overview then as the under-23 squad, it looks like Luke Thomas is your biggest prospect, but you've also got Filip Benkovic at centre-back, who's currently on loan at Cardiff. Again, it's worth seeing how that one goes, but they signed him for 11 million a few years ago, did Leicester. Definitely one for the future once again, after Johnny Evans and Wes Morgan leave the club. A few interesting ones here: Shane Flynn, Callan Hume, Mitch Clark as well. There's some good players in this youth system, but the younger the player is, for example, you've got Shane Flynn who's only 18, that potential fluctuates quite a bit. With Luke Thomas, you pretty much know he's going to become a very, very good player. And the development advice is that apparently Luke Thomas could become a lot better than Timothy Castagna. And that's one that I might look to in some of my saves this year. He's not a player I've heard of, but if we could sneak him off Leicester nice and cheap, that'd be fairly nice. But a 5-year contract, perhaps not. But the development centre is a cracking screen to see your ones to watch. This screen will change, of course, dynamically through your save. Looking at the ones to watch, there are 5 players here currently. That will change over time. And your needs attention screen will also change if there's players that need to go out on loan, players who are concerned perhaps, etc, etc. And this is a really good screen. But I think that rounds out all of our elements for today's team guide. If you've enjoyed and found this video beneficial, please make sure you leave a like down below. Any engagement, likes, comments, subscriptions really helps to bring this video to more people, and that's what we want to do. Help your fellow FM comrades out, that's what I say. If you're experienced at FM and maybe there's something I haven't mentioned today, I've gone over someone in the development centre, or maybe there's something that you have done in your save that's proved to be really beneficial, chuck that down in the comments. Help out your fellow FM players. And for those of you who are more inexperienced at the game, please feel free to leave your comments. If there is anything you're stuck on, then either me or somebody in the comments will help you out. But I've got plenty of other team guides out on the channel. I'm going to be covering all of the Premier League clubs. This is currently the 6th team guide, so we are working through them slowly but surely. But if there are any special team guides you'd like to request, please leave them down in the comments. I can't promise I'll do anything, but I'll certainly try my best if there's the odd special team guide you'd like me to do. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you very much for your company. As I said, please make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe for daily Football Manager 21 beta content. We've currently got a beta save going on with Wolves, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, and hopefully you guys will as well if you come along to join the viewership of those videos. But for now, I have been TIJ Gaming. Thank you very much for your company today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye for now.